playing with confidence. Surges it inside 50.
Inside 50, good hands.
Drilling it into centre half forward. That was end-to-end football at its best.
Back-to-back goals either side of quarter time.
They have done it, the Bulldogs!
I'd fight somebody for you. There ain't no wall I would run through. In your corner when they're ringing the bell. Come hell or high water. I'd fight somebody for you.
Yes, hello WAFL fans. Welcome one and all to another edition of Around the WAFL for your Monday night. We're hot off the heels of another exciting round of WAFL and WAFLW football that has opened up the competition a little more. And that is not just the race for the four. On tonight's recap show, we'll break down all the big action in the WAFL and WAFLW, cast the Player of the Year votes, and we'll tell you about our guests in just a little bit. First off, I want to introduce you to my right-hand man for our recap shows, Ethan Roth. How are you, Rothy? Coming off the back of another exciting weekend.
Yeah, g'day, Paul. And it was very surprising, some of the results on the weekend, notably, obviously, in the WAFL, the Eagles upsetting Claremont, which we'll chat to with our next guest. But across the board, it was another tough week to pick winners.
Don't forget Friday night, of course, in the WAFLW as well, where West Perth made a big statement at the expense of the Sharks. We'll break that all down during the show today. And our guest, speaking of, in just a few moments, we're going to be chatting with the West Coast Eagles development coach and also the backline coach for the WAFL side on game day, Shannon Hurn, former premiership captain at the West Coast Eagles, will be joining us in just a little bit. And Clint Degebrodt, off the back of West Perth's Friday night win in the WAFLW against East Fremantle, he'll be joining us to chat about that amazing win as well. It's all thanks to the fine folks at Grant's Car Stereo, Sullivan Logistics, Front Row Screens, and of course, District Promotions. Great to have them on board in 2026. We'll also talk about the top three plays of the week, the highlights of the highlights, and one of them was Mother Nature itself on Sunday morning, which goes to show anything can happen in the WAFL, and it usually does. Speaking of, let's get to business, Rothy, our first guest of the day's show. Of course, he's a former West Coast Eagles premiership captain. He's still involved with the club these days as the development coach and also on WAFL game days, giving great experience and guidance to the backline. And it worked wonders on Saturday against Claremont in their upset 10-point win over the league leaders. His name is Shannon Hurn, and he's good enough to join us here on Around the WAFL. Shannon, g'day, mate. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me. G'day, Ethan.
Great to have you on the show. Let's talk about, that win over Claremont. It was a gutsy win, wasn't it? Especially that third quarter where the Eagles just kept piling on goal after goal after goal. And would you say, despite the final quarter fade out, that third quarter really set the tone for the win?
I think it did in the end. When it's 9 goals to maybe 2 or 3 points, it certainly sets the game up to be in your favour. Claremont are a well-seasoned team and got some senior players in there and got some very good players that can win the game at both ends and in the midfield. So we've always been talking about, and we want to win, but with development-wise, it's about to compete and do the simple things well. And I certainly we felt that we did that in the third quarter. Just the simple basics of football, worked it forward, we competed in the forward line, and you need a little bit of luck to kick 9, but it certainly gives you those opportunities, and that certainly set the game up for sure.
A couple of guys who've had to be patient in recent weeks, Elijah Hewitt, Tom Gross stepped up, kicked 4 goals, Elijah Hewitt 22 disposals as well. You must be happy with, I guess, the patience they're showing to improve their game, and no doubt they'll be putting stepping blocks ahead to push themselves for senior selection. Yeah,
certainly, Ethan. It's sometimes it's one of those, can be a bit of a challenge where players are certainly wanting to perform individually to get up and put themselves in selection for the AFL level. And it's always the still having that balance of still being able to play team role and team footy, and sometimes put aside your own, I suppose, goals of wanting to perform really well. Sometimes you've got to sacrifice. And I've seen Tom Gross, he's changed his role a little bit this year going forward to try to add some more, I suppose, a different role to his game. And certainly on the weekend and even against Peel the week before, he had some output and hit the scoreboard. And even someone like Elijah Hewitt, a bit of interrupted pre-season, got to play a few AFL games and now just coming back again just to keep building that fitness base, but also just build his competency around the game. And sometimes it can be when you're a younger team, you can be exposed not exposed. I mean, you get exposed at the AFL level to a really high gap. Sometimes learning your craft in the WAFL is a good way to go about it because there's still some very good teams, some very good players in the WAFL, and you still got to be able to compete and learn your way through that.
A couple of other young players that are really making big strides. It was only both their second games, respectively, in the competition. Marcus Herbert, the former Geelong player, and Oliver Franku out of North Adelaide. They've really made some good progress in their first couple of weeks, and their performances against Claremont would really vindicate your selections of those players in the mid-season draft.
Yes, yeah, you're right. I mean, I think the recruitment of, that the club has had, be able to see some players, and certainly now the AFL, it's probably gone a bit more towards the mid-season draft and sometimes the rookie getting some senior players. So certainly around the competition, players that stick at it, VFL, SNFL and WAFL, you're bound to see them get selected, like Malar Murdoch this year as well. So, yes, Marcus has come from a good system in Geelong, understands the game quite well as Oliver being at North Adelaide. So, yes, there is a bit of, it's nice to see them go well, but I think it's great for them having the opportunity, being taught well from a young age about the game and competing and doing the simple things well. And it's shown that it's flowed into their WAFL form here as well.
And you are the backline coach of the WAFL side. So, unfortunately, Ruben Jinby injured himself on Saturday night. Not to put you on the spot, but could we see potentially, someone like Sandy Brock step up and come from the WAFL into the AFL side? And just on that, what's it like? I guess you want guys to be pushing for senior opportunity and have to replace those injured players, but obviously that can make an impact on your WAFL team, which is probably one of the challenges week to week of changes coming in and out both ways.
Yes, yeah, you're right. Well. Yes, certainly. If there's 4 to 6 injuries over a couple weeks in the AFL, they need 4 or 6 players to go up, and that can sometimes throw out the balance of the WAFL side. But we've got some players in there who, like I say, in the WAFL listed players that come in and manage to fill a role and still play to the best of their ability. So we've been fortunate enough with that to have some players come in and play well down back or in the midfield, even up forward and compete for us. So, blokes like Josh Burke, James Ewing down back, and even Caleb Datson, they've been doing a very good job and we've been quite happy with how they've been going about it. And then, yes, unfortunate with Ruben being injured, but that will again create opportunities. We saw Rhett Bazzo's being able to go up into the back line recent times. There will be more opportunities, and how that gets selected, I'm sure that McQualter and the rest will fit something in, but certainly Sandy Brock's form in his last 2 or 3 weeks has been quite good. Herbert's been showing some good form, as you spoke about. Luca Grego in these past months has really shown some growth in his game about the understanding of the defensive side of it and still bringing some offense. So we've got some players there that have put in some good form of football, which is great. So then if they get selected to go up to the AFL level, they've got some confidence that they can contribute quite well.
Plenty of opportunity for those players staking their claim to be in the AFL side, and there were plenty of good signs on Saturday against Claremont. Shannon, we really appreciate your time here on Around the WAFL. All the best for the week ahead, including the big clash in round 10 on Saturday against Swan Districts of Bassendean.
Thanks, Shannon.
Too easy. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Ethan.
Real privilege to chat with Shannon Hurn, premiership legend at the West Coast Eagles, these days the development coach and the backline coach on game day for their WAFL side. It's great for a club like the Eagles in the WAFL to have some great experience, premiership player, premiership captain, and especially one of the great key defenders of the competition, guide the experience and the next generation of backline players for the West Coast Eagles.
Certainly is, and it can be a tough task considering the changes. We understand what happens with West Coast Eagles and Peel at WAFL level coming in and out, but a much improved effort considering what they had against the Thunder a week ago. Then to turn it around against, probably the premiership fancy, they'll take a lot of confidence out of that.
No doubt about that. We'll recap that game in a little bit more detail when we come back from the break here on Around the WAFL. It's all thanks to the fine folks at Sullivan Logistics, Grants Car Stereo, District Promotions, and of course Front Row Screen Sport. A recap of round 10 of the Sullivan Logistics, or round 9 rather, of the Sullivan Logistics WAFL Premiership season right after this here on Around the WAFL. You're checking it out on YouTube and on your podcast service. Don't go anywhere. Back after this.
Take it from me, great things happen at the WAFL.
Valentine Roads and goals.
With free entry for kids, future stars on the ground, and a kick to kick at every break. The WAFL is where footy memories start and legends are made. Follow the WAFL on socials or get to a game.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate. On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
And you're back with us here on Around the WAFL, your go-to WAFL podcast in season 2026. Paul Persick and Ethan Roth with you on this Monday night. Hope you're keeping yourself nice and warm over there in West Australia. It's been cold, it's been wet, and hope you're cozying yourself up to some great WAFL insight and information. Round 9 of the Sullivan Logistics WAFL Premiership season, Rothy, under our belts, and we saw some smashings and we saw some shocks over the weekend. Let's start out at Lane Group Stadium in Mandurah, where a shellacking took place in the thunderous kind. Peel Thunder, a 5-0 first quarter, set up a massive 62-point victory over Swan Districts. Peel there like the Hordes closing in at the top end of the ladder, none too slowly. And again, it was their star-studded midfield that got the job done.
Yeah, they were dominant, weren't they? And they keep pushing their case to further make their home ground an advantage down there in Mandurah. So it was Jeremy Sharp who led the way with 40 disposals and 2 goals, including an absolute beauty from the pocket, well called by Jordan McConnell towards the end of the game. But yeah, a lot of the damage was done before that, and it was a matter of what the final margin was going to be from a long way out, unfortunately, for Swan Districts.
Toby Wan had his most prolific game as well, 27 disposals, and again the form of Lockie Tardrew is well praised, 33 touches and 9 great marks as well. Even booted a goal as well to lift the team in that first half. Sharp, as you said, with 42, and everyone contributed. Sean Darcy may have staked his claim for a potential Dockers return, another 28 hitouts following his 25 plus the week before in the alignment derby against the Eagles, and he had 21 disposals as well. Scotty Tuia also was magnificent, and up forward Charlie Nichols seems to be that sneaky goal sneak, that forward option for Peel Thunder when the likes of Tregenza, Simpson, and also Jacob Hewitt failed to fire. You've always got Charlie Nichols as that third or maybe fourth option up forward to boost their avenues to goal.
Yeah, he's not super high profile, obviously, but he's on an AFL list for a reason, and he can fly under the radar, literally, metaphorically, take your pick. So, he's really coming on in his second year, and he's going to take a bit more time. He'll have up and downs. That's just the nature of young key forwards. But they had so many winners across the board. Even Jaron Carr, as you said, 27 disposals, 1 goal. He's been sort of in and out of the side. You could go through the whole list. Cooper Simpson as well, and I think it was just a midfield domination, and Blake Kelly, a second gamer, was the best for the Swans. So that probably tells you the story that there was too few and far between for the Black Ducks.
Yeah, more passengers than drivers for Swan Districts in that game. But credit to Blake Kelly, second game, still a very good, mature youngster, got a good head on his shoulders with 29 disposals. McLaughlin was below his best, so too Turner with 23 and 20 touches respectively. Lucas Impey got 25 hitouts in the ruck, but was well beaten around the ball, and that was the story of the game for me. Watching the replay, Peel Thunder just won everywhere all around the football, especially the contested. They had a lot of uncontested football as well because they were first to it. And the inside 50 count really told 53 to 37. If you're double digits ahead of inside 50, that could be alarming signs.
Yeah, it sure could be. So, plenty to work on for Swan Districts. They're showing signs in games. I know this wasn't probably a full example of that, but they are showing signs. It's just being able to do it together. And it feels like it only takes them a sort of a quarter to be off for the opposition more often than not to get a run on them.
But also what I don't get as well, the Swans, they got their first win at home in round 3, and, since then they've started to be a better side, but they're showing more glimpses at home than what they're showing on the road. When they're on the road, they appear to be a more fragile side, and they're relying on the experienced players to get it done, while their younger heads are not really standing up to the task on the road. They're doing so at home to their credit, but not doing so away from Steel Blue Oval.
Yeah, I think credit to Peel, though. Like, they were so dominant. I think when you've got so many guys who I'm stating the obvious, but they are an AFL list, so they are a class above, the likes of Jeremy Sharp and those guys that we mentioned. So not to, give out excuses for Swan Districts, but yeah, I feel like if Peel were at their best, they were always going to be hard to stop in this one.
Especially that first quarter where they kicked 5-0. I thought the game was going to be a very difficult one for Swan Districts to get back into, especially with the class of the Peel Thunder side. And while Swan Districts showed glimpses, it was few and far in between, as you summed up so beautifully, recapping this very game. Peel Thunder winning by 62 points, and they just keep on going. They have not lost at home at all this season, so they're looking very ominous over there at Lane Group Stadium. And we all thought Claremont at Revo Fitness Stadium was an ominous combination. Well, not anymore, it seems. After their loss to East Perth 2 weeks ago, they suffered another one, this time at the hands of all teams, the West Coast Eagles. A 9-goal third quarter, setting up a 10-point victory, but the margin may seem to have flattered Claremont, some would say, because the Eagles took their foot off the gas in the last quarter, especially led by Jaden Hunter, who kicked 7 goals, but it was that third quarter, Rothy, where the Eagles just turned it on and made Claremont look second-rate.
Yeah, and we've touched on their third quarters and how poor they've been in recent times, and they completely switched the flick on that one. So, yeah, the Eagles, I think that anytime you kick 7 goals and lose a game of footy, Jaden Hunter will be feeling like he didn't have more support around him.
Well, he came back from suspension and had something to prove, didn't he? Because Claremont usually have the best forward line in the competition, but when you've got Hunter as your only key forward firing, that really tells you how the Eagles dominated most of that game in the 50.
Yeah, they sure did. And sometimes, when I guess it's lopsided in terms of Claremont going into this game as firm favourites, it can just free you up. You feel like you've got nothing to lose, and potentially that was for the Eagles, and for Claremont, they might have just got a bit complacent thinking that the Eagles were going to be easy beats, which you can't do in this competition as we've learnt this year.
Absolutely. As we found out on the long weekend, anyone can beat anybody on any given day, and we saw that again with the West Coast Eagles getting it done. We talked with Shannon Hurn a little earlier in the show about, obviously the unfortunate sign of Ruben Ginby in the AFL match later on that day with a serious injury, but it does provide a lot of good opportunities for those that are in the Eagles side. The likes of Ewing, Burke, who are all magnificent in the back line. They completely put DeLacy and Gowdy right out of business on Saturday, but you also got the ruckman in Matt Flynn, who was sensational. He continues to be in some good form since getting back into the WAFL side with 34 hitouts. I would say he won his matchup with Oliver Eastland, and that is rare to say. Eastland rarely gets beaten in the ruck. Okay, it's very different levels of football. Claremont in that in the WAFL category, the Eagles having an AFL listed side, but Flynn, he completely dominated Eastland, I would say.
He did, and I guess luckily Bailey Williams for the Eagles is doing really well, so I guess Matt Flynn may be impartial to come straight in, but getting some good form together. Against the likes of Ollie Eastland.
Tom Gross really is finding his form as well. He kicked 4 goals from a midfield, played more in the forward line as well, but he added some great running power to that Eagles forward setup.
Really become a reliable option in terms of kicking goals. He does it in general play as well, and didn't have the most high disposals he's ever had, but it was complete impact. He had 7 scoring shots, so Tom Gross having 7 scoring shots, probably alarm bells in the coach's box for Axe Prescott.
And if I'm to be honest, that third quarter, Claremont expected things to happen and they didn't make things happen. The Eagles made things happen a lot more. They got first to the football. They were able to be more effective inside 50. They were more polished with their ball use. Claremont, they just let things happen and they played pretty ordinary. It was un-Claremont-like. And, I don't want to be harsh here, but Claremont, I said in the Thursday preview, they should not have gone into that game with any complacency. I feel that they did, especially when, it was half-time, they led by a couple of goals, and they expected to coast away with it considering their record, but, they were not prepared for a physically tougher Eagles opposition, and I'm afraid they were made to pay the price. I was on the call with Daniel Hobley on 7+ for it, and Claremont, they were made to pay. They were made to pay for not being prepared enough for a very tough, well-drilled Eagles opposition.
Yeah, and They would have been nervous for the Eagles considering they let Claremont back into it. But, relief. And as we said with Shannon and Hurn, don't underestimate what this can do for the side's confidence moving forward. Although the likes of Dewar and Lindsay didn't have their best games ever, they hit the scoreboard as well. A couple of young Eagles. We know Lindsay's really come onto the scene this year as an AFL Rising Star nominee.
Mainwaring had 20 disposals for the Tigers, but, it was some bit below his best. Okay, he had plenty of the football in the first half, but he faded out of the game in the third quarter. England, 24, below his usual average as well. Benjamin Elliott, he had 20 disposals. Eastland, we talked about with his battle with Matt Flynn, and Alex Pearce had 24, but nothing really clicked after half-time for Claremont. Okay, they had a better final term and went on and kicked some 7-1 in that last quarter to get within 10 points, but really that margin flattered Claremont. It's more of a case of Eagles improving rather than Claremont being in a little slump, losing 2 out of their last 3 games, because there's still a long way to go in the season.
There is, and Claremont have to put this past them. They're a professional outfit, so they'll have to do that. And you're right. I guess Callan England can't be too hard, but he was a bit below his best. Still the leading position getter for them, former Eagle himself, and Zach Mainwaring. I mean, there would have been probably a bit of motivation to try and essentially prove the Eagles wrong after a bit of mid-season talk, but nonetheless he'll have to move forward, and we can't be too critical of him. He's been in sublime form and really adapted well across the board in that new mid-forward role.
Just one of those days, wasn't it? And it was a great day for the West Coast Eagles, winning by 10 points, and all of a sudden even they could be contenders for a spot in the 5. It's getting really interesting, but great job by the Eagles. And we go over to Mineral Resources Park on the Saturday, and it was, back and forth, a little bit of close-knit checking for 3 quarters, but in the end, Perth, they were able to run away from the Lions after a stirring last quarter, registering another win at home, this time by 20 points over a gallant but overrun Lions. How surprising it was, Rothy, that the Demons had 18 less inside 50s and still went on and won the match.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess stats can be deceiving sometimes, and in the case of Perth, they won't be complaining too much that they're on the wrong side of that ledger, and they came out reasonably fast start, but then Subiaco clawed their way back in. Inaccuracy really told a lot of the story. I mean, you look at 7 goals, 13 Subiaco, Perth ultra accurate, 12 goals, 3. It could have easily gone the other way if the Lions made up for inaccuracy.
Yeah, Perth, on the contrast, 12 goals, 3 from 15 scoring shots, very polished, and it was led by Brendan Parfitt. Gee, when he's come back, he has come back like a house of fire. 37 touches, 2 goals. He really was involved in everything.
I dare say 3 Sandover votes will be coming his way later in the year, but the likes of Constable are reliable again, like with Matty Taylor across half back. He's just gets the job done week in, week out, and Perth, not a perfect performance, but you can't discount what Jared Schofield brought to the Lions this year. So I think it's a really pleasing sign, especially Perth coming off a really disappointing loss the previous week against Swan Districts. They wouldn't have won this game to come any quicker to bounce back.
You're absolutely right, and a lot of the pundits and scribers talked about Perth being mentally fragile after that loss to Swan Districts. Now they showed how mentally tough they can be under pressure. It was a complete turnaround, a complete 180, 7 days apart, and it was all credit to the way Mark Stone was able to get the side back on the edge after, pretty much going off after, losing to Swan Districts on the Saturday before. But they really turned things around, and it was a great turnaround, not just led by the genius of Mark Stone, but also the great toughness and the hard work of the likes of Constable, Parfitt, Matty Taylor, the Silver Fox down in the half-back line, and up forward you have the likes of Johnson, who kicked a couple, Aaron Clark with 3. But Subiaco, they'll lose no admirers. They're showing good signs. Obviously, they had a poor last quarter, which cost them the game when you're looking at it, and their inaccuracy in front of goal. But you can't fault the likes of McGowan, Kelman, both producing great efforts with over 20 disposals. Liam Hickmott with 26, Marlon Corbett, 10 tackles to go with his 20 disposals as well. But the forward line, pretty much exposed again. They're still without the likes of Borchett and Sokol through injury, and that sort of depleted Subiaco's stocks in front of goal.
Yeah, and it looks like Steph Jaro is going to be missing a bit of footy through suspension
as
well.
Right.
So, they're going to have to find some replacements for that. Not easy shoes to fill by any means. But, Subiaco, they had a debutant come into the side in Lucas Blair. So he came in for his first game as well, had the 8 disposals. So that's continuing to blood youth Subiaco. But they weren't disgraced by any means. Good to see Noah Hibbins Hargraves move forward and hit the scoreboard. Still, I guess, getting a gauge of where Subiaco are at. We know where they're aiming to get towards, and I think it was sort of spoke about in the pre-season about they might just be 1 to 2 years away. They need to get this system, get the new coach in, and
still a few chinks in the armour.
Maybe not this year to really be a full premiership threat, but I guess at the expense of that short term, you might see a few up and down performances.
And you'll see some success in the long term. Subiaco under Schofield, they were a very good side, in his first stint as coach with those 3 premierships. Obviously, his second stint is going to be a little bit more difficult, but he's risen to the challenge very well and has adapted to this new look lineup at Subiaco, of course, with Ben Sokol out of retirement, but obviously he's been out for a couple of weeks. We talked about Gyro possibly being out through suspension. That provides new opportunity for those youngsters, as you talked about with Blair, but in the end, it was the Demons that rose to an even bigger challenge and needed to keep their spot in the 5 in a gritty contest over the Lions. Now we go to Sunday. It was a grand final rematch. We had a great crowd in surprisingly perfect conditions out at Sullivan Logistics Stadium, but East Perth made it a dog of a day for the Bulldogs, and what a win it was. 48 points, 12-11 to 4-11. Let's just be blunt. East Perth gave South Fremantle an absolute caning.
What a day to do it as well. Premiership reunion from the early 2000s.
Good to see Tony McCall at the ground as well. He was bobbing up and about.
Yeah, and a little slice at redemption against South Fremantle off the back of last year's grand final. Of course, nothing can replicate the premiership. That won't be able to be taken out of South Fremantle's hands. But Royals looked anything but a team second to South Fremantle yesterday.
No, they certainly were. They were first rate. There was no doubt about that. Tough challenge at quarter time. South Fremantle, were very inaccurate. 5 behinds, even from close range. Even you could have kicked those, if I'm being honest. But the way East Perth teamed brilliantly after quarter time, through the likes of Burgill, who was brilliant up forward, provided good service, kicked a goal. Wright, Saunders, Darcy Craven, who kicked the lone 2 goals of the quarter. He showed Brisbane what they missed after he was delisted by Brisbane last year. Got a couple of goals and was a real threat in midfield. Angus Scott as well, and Scotty Jones in the ruck. He completely gave the South Fremantle rucks in Riley Colborne an absolute bath. And I'm going to be brutally honest with South Fremantle, their 3rd loss in a row. Obviously, you don't want to be too critical of the South Fremantle side because they've had more losses this year than last year, but that was very ordinary. Very ill-disciplined. They gave away a lot of silly free kicks, and they were just not first to the ball. They just weren't hard enough at the contest. East Perth were, and they played a more physical approach. They dished out the stuff, and South Fremantle didn't like it. And unfortunately, if you don't like the rough stuff that you're prepared to be dished out on, then you're going to pay the price, and East Perth really made them pay.
Yeah, they sure did. And South Fremantle still without Matty Parker. I still think it's a massive loss. I honestly think it's not being spoken about enough, the loss of Matty Parker to this side. And they will say that, you're going to be able to replace a player like Matty Parker, which you can't really do. And I think it's just leaving a bit too much of a hole than maybe people anticipated. They know that, but I'm obviously got to move on. Isaiah Winder tried his heart out. Ethan Hughes, Louis Rayson, etc. They got their hands on the ball. They just, couldn't make full use of it. And you don't want to rely on a teenager, but Lucas Robinson, obviously out of the side of the state agents duties, made a little bit of an impact too.
It certainly did. And the lack of impact from Trey Rusco in the forward line. He only had 8 disposals and kicked 1 goal 3 as the East Perth backline, who were without a couple of key backline, key players as well. Kai Wilcox in particular. I saw him out there with the jacket still out through injury. It's still a very considerable effort by East Perth. And to make matters a bit of a downside, the only downside I should say for East Perth was the hamstring injury to Hamish Brayshaw. He went off the ground midway through the second quarter. Don't know what timeline he has for a return at this stage, but with the bye coming up, it could be a bit of a silver lining.
Yeah, hopefully, you can use that bye to his advantage, and that's sort of where you can only get him to, because you want him back. We know he's had a bit of injury trouble this year with soft tissue injury and hamstrings, etc. I thought Corey Watts did a really good job though.
He did, half, and especially on Rusco.
We don't want to, overstate things when something happens, and we don't want to understate things when something happens. But I've got a question around Trey Rusco. Has he checked out? Because he is going to Europe, and the last couple of weeks have been very quiet. And you've got to give credit to the defenders that have been on him. But has he checked out because he knows he's not going to be there in a few weeks?
I think so. And I still say to this day, if you were to go to Europe or plan a holiday, do it in the off-season. Do not do it in the pre-season. Now, I don't want to be critical of Trey Rusco, but he's a great player. But 2 words for that mid-season trip to Europe: big mistake. Big mistake. And I've got to say this, I reckon if they continue on this losing run and they have to come back through the reserves, if I was Craig White, I'd be putting him in the reserves. I reckon if they'd plan that trip maybe for the off-season or maybe at the start of the year and they can do a bit of pre-season there would not have been an issue. It has not gone down with the club, apparently. And I'm afraid to say, again, 2 words, big mistake. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from. And, it's a tough one. Obviously, you don't know sort of the personal situation other than going to Europe. But
it's all behind closed doors. But, when you're looking at it, what you do know, you just got to say it with honesty.
You do. So hopefully I can find another one. It's going to put a little bit of pressure on the likes of Cooper Cart Daring, but hopefully he's more than up for it. And the Bulldogs, this is just the most down patch of their year so far for their sake.
Yes, absolutely. But East Perth, well, they're on a bit of an up after a couple of big wins over Claremont and South Fremantle in the last couple of weeks, and a great way to bounce back from the Derby loss as well against West Perth. So great turnaround. Ross McQueen really got them back into a winning habit. Round 9 is completed. We're almost halfway there, Rothy. Where does that leave the ladder after 9 rounds? Well, Claremont are still out on top, but after their loss and Peel Thunder's win, the gap has been reduced to 1 win. It's getting very interesting now. 1 win ahead of East Perth. But East Perth, after their big win over South Fremantle and the percentage boost, they go up to 3rd at the expense of the reigning premiers. So they're down to 4th, Perth in 5th, and a win behind is Subiaco, East Fremantle and the West Coast Eagles. Swan Districts in 9th and West Perth still at the rear with just 1 win. And I'll tell you what, Rothy, anywhere between 2nd through to 8th, oh, gee, they're going to be staking their claim for a spot in the 5.
Yeah, it's an open race, isn't it? Which is what we love to see, sort of getting towards the midway part of the season, which, still a long way to go. So you don't want to be peaking too early, but you don't want to be falling behind that big range of teams.
Yes, absolutely. We have still got 11 rounds remaining, and by gee, it is going to be one hell of a race for the 5. Let's go to the votes. Round 9 of the WAFL Premiership season. 1 vote I gave to Tom Gross. Great batch of form he's been on. 4 goals, 3. Got plenty of the football when the ball was entering the Eagles' forward territory, and he made the most of those opportunities. 2 votes, Brendan Parfitt. What a run he's been on as well. Another big haul of disposals and a couple of goals chipping in as an additional forward option. And when the likes of Clark and Johnson are getting a bit held down by the Subiaco backline, Parfitt came in and just burst through and kicked those 2 vital goals. 3 votes, Lockie Tardra. He's becoming one of my favourites this season. He's a tackling machine. He can run for hours and he takes his match fitness very, very seriously. Bit AFL standard, even though he's not on an AFL list now. He plays like an AFL-listed player. He's got his experience over at Collingwood being the skipper, and he's putting it to good use, especially after last Saturday's win against the Swans. 4 votes, Oliver Franco from the West Coast Eagles. So with these bye rounds, there'll be multiple players from a club getting votes. It happens to be the Eagles this week. But Franco, I'm really enjoying his progress so far in the WAFL side, and I reckon before long, he could be getting an AFL opportunity. He's really got what it takes as an inside midfielder, and the talent runs in the family too, being the son of Josh Franco, a McGarry medalist with North Adelaide 30 years ago. But the top gun for this week, gee, he was on fire on Sunday at Sullivan Logistics Stadium from East Perth, Angus Scott. He was a tear in that midfield, and he was a nightmare for the Bulldogs on ballers as he got another 30-plus disposals, got a goal as well, and chipped in with some great marks all afternoon.
Yeah, he has occupied Sullivan Logistics Stadium, the wings, for a long time now, and did so effectively again on the weekend. He's been here for a long time now, so and maybe doesn't get the plaudits of the other inside mids, considering you have high-profile guys like Tom North and Hamish Brayshaw in there, but
well, especially when Brayshaw went out, I felt Scott really lifted in his intensity a bit more.
Yeah, and we know his running capabilities as well. So yeah, he's played state footy. We know the caliber of play he is, and that was on full display on the weekend.
No doubt about it. Let's go to the leaderboard after round 9, and it looks like this. Jack Cleaver from East Fremantle still holds the lead ahead of Angus Scott by 1 vote. So he's passed Bailey Rogers as well, who drops down to 3rd. Lockie Tardrew is up to 4th, and Tom Gross is in the top 10 once again on 5 votes, and joining him on 5 votes is Charlie Dean, Hamish Brayshaw, Jarvis Pena, Mitch Schofield and Stefan Gyro of Subiaco. So it's all opening up, especially around the top 10, but there's still 11 rounds left.
Yeah, there is. So, Jack Cleaver in pole position at the moment. But, with them obviously returning this week off the bye, we're looking to get some votes. And more importantly, for his sake, a win, which, can probably reflect in the votes more often than not.
That's WAFL action under our belts for another Monday night. We're going to go to Colton WAFL W right after the break. And also, we're going to be chatting with West Perth's Clint Degebrodt off the back of their great win over East Fremantle on Friday night. And the top 3 plays of the week. The highlights of the highlights, including one from Mother Nature on Sunday morning. It's all thanks to the fine folks at Grants Car Stereo, Sullivan Logistics, District Promotions, and of course Front Row Screen Sport. More around the WAFL coming your way right after this.
Take it from me, great things happen at the WAFL.
Valentine rides and goals.
With free entry for kids, future stars on the ground, and a kick to kick at every break. The WAFL is where footy memories start and legends are made. Follow the WAFL on socials or get to a game.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate. On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Car Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
Back with us here on Around the Waffle for your Monday night recap show. We've recapped Waffle Round 9. That is in the books. And, of course, we're going to get into Colts very shortly. And also Waffle W Round 10 of the 2026 ATCO Waffle W Premiership season. And that's where we're going to go to right now, Rothy, because West Perth, didn't they make a statement win on Friday night against fellow contenders East Fremantle? And East Perth find themselves a narrow gap behind the top three. And could they be a bit of a smoky for a chance at a big finals berth? Well, the coach of West Perth is really holding the key for their season, Clint Degebrodt, and he's good enough to join us here on Around the Waffle off the back of their great win over the Sharks. Clint, g'day, mate.
G'day, how you going?
Going very well. Great to have you on the show. Congrats on the win. Would it be a fair assessment to say that's one of your more better wins of the season so far because of the way you dominated the contest and kept East Fremantle right out of the contest through the entire evening?
No doubt. I think you described it really well. Obviously, it's a fantastic side, East Fremantle, filled with talent. So it's the first time we've actually put sort of four quarters together this season, and it's the first time we've sort of gone back to our brand over the last couple of years. So I was very pleased. No doubt our best performance of the year so far against quality opposition.
You must be wrapped with, I guess, in the first place, signing Sabrina McKinnon, but then the impact she's making now, understandably, probably took a couple of games to find her feet, but just a class act that I'm sure a lot of the players feed off.
Yeah, and her confidence, her understandings of the game, her experience, it's a really positive effect on the young group. And it's a great call. She's found her feet now. She knows she's working within the system. She's performing her role each week, so she's having big statements the last couple of weeks, but she's been really dynamic for us since we've got her on board.
Got a lot of great class in the midfield as well, and it keeps on getting better with the likes of Bitterfeld, who had 20, Hannah Power, who's a good midfielder coming up through the ranks with 22 disposals. It's a really good midfield unit that's getting better.
Yeah, Ellie McAvoy as well. So the Irish players are stepping forward. They're bringing their understandings of the GAA game to footy, and our players allow them to step forward and lead, which is awesome. You're right about Bitters too. It's a big challenge for Bitters. We had a chat to her during the week and said, you can have a crack at more possessions if you'd like. And, she had a big smile on her face and we said, let's see if we can get 2-0. And she went and did it. So, yeah, classy, speedy left footer. She's hard to collar and she defends really well.
You've got a stack of State 18s players representing WA this year, and it was sort of similar last year with Subiaco, where maybe the side wasn't as good when, for Subiaco's instance, when those players went out. What's the challenge been like with, majority of those State 18s players quite easily best in your best team, but when they go out, it can be quite a bit of changes both ways.
Yeah, we try to treat the whole squad with the same respect, from first to 32nd. And we try to give them all the same access to the training and the plan as each other. We sort of tried to have that old Hawthorn model, soldier in, soldier out. The club's also very keen to promote its talent to the state, which means we probably played a couple of kids earlier than they maybe needed to. So perhaps held one or two experienced players out so that they could shine in the first games. And of course, we had a couple of really close games. You lost one by 2, lost one by 6, lost another one by 2. And when you've got, a plethora of sort of 17-year-olds out there in their sort of 5th and 6th game, it's a big ask for them to survive in those really tough environments against full-grown, professional, semi-professional female athletes. So we sort of go from chaotic and excellent a little bit more stable. And now the challenge, of course, is we were just talking about it in the little selection meeting. The balance is how do we get them back in, and how do we keep and maintain sort of our experience level? So we're probably just a bit young in those first few games in terms of across the board. So now our average age is up a bit, and we're sort of making better decisions with the ball. So how can we support these kids to come back and connect? You know, for Cara and Lexi, it's obviously, you know, in those 2 or 3 games we've got them before they get drafted, and then how do we continue to support sort of Miley and you know, Jazzy Giles and their growth as well as Ricky.
I'll go as far as to say that West Perth is probably the most balanced side in the competition to challenge the likes of Claremont and Swan Districts, as you pointed out. A couple of close losses between those two sides, but team balance is oh so important in this competition, and I think your side has got possibly the most of that, especially when you've got so many under-18s players that are committed to the national championship that begins very shortly. But that brings in some new opportunities for the younger talent. It must feel good as a coach to put an emphasis on team balance these days.
Yeah, and something we've been building over 3 years. When we got here a couple of years ago, every team's got 4 or 5 really good players, but you can get 5 players sort of covered. So our philosophy here has been you've got to play all 21 of us. You've got to really work for us all, and we'll sacrifice our game a bit if, say, you know, Zoe Huggett gets a double teamed on the weekend, so Sabrina gets 4, and you have a look at sort of the game review and see how hard Huggy worked to get sort of score involvements and score assistance through her game, and then we have to celebrate that, obviously. So what we're trying to do as much as possible is use all of our players on the field. Just to try and play their roles as much as possible, and to be dynamic in their roles as well. With situation changes, they might have to change their behaviours, which is something we've been really working on maintaining, building a behavioural standard, maintaining a standard, and then changing our behaviours according to according to numbers rather than feelings. So that's what we've been really working hard on is to be really balanced across all lines. When I have a look at the team on the weekend, I really couldn't see any weaknesses in our group. When you have a look at East Fremantle, and you sort of got Jay Flynn and, you know, Happy Atkins and Teakle and Webb, and you think how you're going to go about dismantling this fantastic group of people. But the girls, you know, to their credit, went and played the game that they planned to play. So I was immensely proud of them.
No, they were absolutely terrific on Friday night, and let's hope that winning run continues as you chase a spot in the 4 in 2026. Clint, we really appreciate your time here on Around the Waffle. All the best for the week ahead, and good luck for the remainder of the season.
Thanks, Clint.
Thanks very much.
Yes, Clint Degebrodt joining us here on Around the Waffle. We really appreciate his time. And thanks to Shannon Hurn as well earlier on in the show. Colts report time, Rothy. Only 3 games played on the weekend, but all had great bearing as far as the finals were concerned. Yeah, and there was an upset starting off between Peel and Swan Districts on Friday night. Peel Thunder, they've gone from strength to strength after finally winning that game to break an almost 2-year hooter. They beat Swan Districts by 14 points, and it was a really even performance across the board. The likes of Jake Cooper, Bo Fallon stepped up as well, and Colin Tuck with a couple of goals. So Peel Thunder, that'll take a lot of confidence out of that because Swan Districts has been performing strongly. They certainly have. Colin Tuck, I reckon he had one of his better games in the season on Friday night as well. Saturday we had one game, and it was a big win for the Lions. It was. They definitely outnumbered Perth on multiple fronts, and it was the likes of Judd Malloy-Broughton kicking 5 goals. Harry Guilford was swung up forward. He's typically a defender, but he kicked 4 goals as well. Archie O'Donnell continued his strong form with a bag of 3 off the back of 4 last week. So, Subiaco, been down the bottom, but that'll give him a lot of confidence. Certainly will. And then Sunday, we had a very bizarre start to the Royals-Bulldogs game, but it eventually got going, and in the end, the Bulldogs were able to hang on. Yeah, 10 points, which, East Perth definitely pushed them off the back of a disappointing WA Day performance for them. And South Fremantle bounced back as well in the form of a win after losing to East Fremantle on WA Day as well. So, hence the Sunday game, and, East Perth had a chance through Barnard late. He couldn't quite convert, and that was enough for South Fremantle to get over the line in the end. So we know at the Colts at the moment, the first game in the National Championships for WA start this week. So with that, with school footy, a lot of new opportunity present for some of the Colts guys who maybe weren't used to it at the start of the year. Absolutely. Great report as always, Rothy. Where does the ladder stand after this round of Colts football? Because it's incredibly open at the moment. It is. South Fremantle and Claremont are equal top on the ladder, separated just by percentage. East Fremantle on 20 points. West Perth and Swan Districts make up the 5. Swan Districts will be disappointed with that loss to Peel Thunder. They've just left Peel
Thunder in touch with the top 5, only out of it by percentage, while Subiaco, East Perth, and Perth are now all on 8 points. So I guess compared to last year, each team has had at least 2 wins, which is really good from an equity position.
It certainly would, but Swan Districts would have been disappointed by letting that game slip because Peel Thunder, having not won a game in 2 years, are all of a sudden contending for a spot in the 5. What year is this?
Yeah, and it just shows you, I mean, not to put it on the coach, but a bit of a coaching change, new players coming through, it can just refresh the scene.
It certainly can, and it did in a big way over the last few weeks for Peel Thunder. WAFL W time, round 10 of the ATCO WAFL W Premiership season, into the second half of competition, and it started with a bang for West Perth against an East Fremantle side, usually that is capable of taking it to the opposition and dominating on the Friday night lights. Not on this occasion. West Perth, 43-point winner, 7-11 to 1-4, and as we chat about it with Clint earlier, they've got a great team balance, and they put that to great use, West Perth, didn't they? You know, through the likes of Bitterfeld, Power, and Ellie McAvoy, who got over 20 disposals. That start in the in the second quarter really was vital, and East Fremantle, they didn't even look like scoring for most of the game.
Yeah, this was sort of pumped up to be one of, if not the game of the round, and West Perth, obviously they didn't score a goal in the first quarter, and it was all East Fremantle, but then East Fremantle were kept goalless after that, so a bit of a turn of events there, and East Fremantle will be pretty disappointed. Maybe, I guess, it's caught up with them a little bit. They've exceeded expectations across the board, and maybe it was just one of those ones where, it just caught up with them with a ruthless West Perth side, like, led by the likes of Power, McAvoy, and also Sabrina McKinnon kicking another bag of 4.
McKinnon, she been on fire up forward in recent weeks. Another 4-goal bag, just sensational. And another reason why they dominated the contest overwhelmingly is the inside 50s, 48-18. Good heavens, that was very alarming from an East Fremantle point of view. But for West Perth, first to the football, controlled the game their own way from go to woe. And this is a win that could be reflective on West Perth's setup for the second half of the season because, we said before that they have the capacity to challenge Swan Districts and Claremont, but to beat another Final Four contender, quite emphatically, okay, they've had player turnover. Still, it's a massive statement for the Falcons to make.
Absolutely, and Clint agreed that it was their best game of the season. So, that's the standard they'll try and aim for week in, week out now.
What about East Fremantle? We can't fault the efforts of Mackenzie Webb, 18 disposals, nor Tiani Tiku, who had 21, and Jay Flynn with 20. They were their 3 best, but they just had more passengers than drivers.
They did, and I think, as I was saying, I think they've been involved in some really close wins that have probably, pushed them so much, and it might have just been a case here of it's kind of caught up with them, as I said, because you can only go so much with a young group as well.
Right.
You can only sort of have these tight wins probably so much, and unfortunately it sort of went the other way on Friday night.
Would you think this win would set up West Perth for the second half of the season? Do you think, they've proven now, okay, we can beat a final side, we've challenged 2, can they make the 4?
I think they can, and I think, it's definitely a blueprint for them. They're sort of yet to take that next step in regards to they're always around about the 4, but they're never really, I guess, staking their claim consistently for a top 2 position, if that makes sense. So, of course, we know you only have to look at Swan Districts last year. You only have to make the finals to go far. But, I'm optimistic with what West Perth can do. It's just a balancing act because they've got so many 18s players, so you can't really deny, from a draft point of view, but also exposure and team balance ability to come back into the team. So they've just got to be able to make use of it, and those players who might not be in the frame when those 18s players are back can really say, no, we deserve a spot in this position. It's going to cause some selection headaches.
It certainly will, and maybe some good ones for Clint Degebrodt after that great Friday night win. 43-point winners over East Fremantle. Let's go now to Claremont and Subiaco. You were on the call for this one at Revo Fitness Stadium, ironically after my game, so it was tag in, tag out. But like Claremont and West Coast, this one finished up in a close one too. Claremont, they got the early ascendancy, but Subiaco came back late, but left their run too late and fell 6 points short of the reigning premiers. And Claremont, dare I say it, might have got a bit lucky.
They might have, and you can't take away from the performance from Claremont because the ability to hold on time and time again. Subiaco came hard. It was just an inaccuracy. I couldn't help but think, for Subiaco, they'd be so frustrated. They set so many chances up, particularly towards the end of the first half.
Yeah,
where they
3 behinds.
Straight in front of goal. So, fortunately, they were playing a bit of catch-up footy, but sort of could have been a bit of deja vu because they came back against West Perth, were able to get the job done. I thought, hold on, they could be doing the same here. They've almost become a little bit of last quarter specialists, even if they didn't get the win on this occasion.
And it was all that first half, wasn't it, that gave Claremont a little bit of breathing space. We talked about the likes of Orzell getting amongst the possessions. She was outstanding. So too Matilda Husband in the ruck. Sarah Viney was all right. Jamie Harkin below her best, usually above 30 disposals, but 21. But having said that, very effective when she uses the football, using her experience well. And Subiaco, Paige Shepherd, the usual suspect, getting a lot of the footy. Lisa Steen with 22, Petrevsky with 22, Vincey Sharp with 10 as well, but failed to get that decisive opportunity in front of goal. But, the margin, isn't really a reflection on, Claremont being the superior side. I still think Claremont, look very superior against the likes of Subiaco, East Fremantle and West Perth, but you've got to have wins bigger than that.
You do, but you also just have to have wins at the end of the day and qualify as high. So, they'll be pretty content that they came out with a victory because Subiaco came hard, as we said. It was pretty interesting as well because they had no Juliet Kelly out there, who obviously had an outstanding game the week before. So it added a bit more challenge for the midfielders to step up. And you talk about Jamie Harkin, I think. For her and for Claremont as a whole, you'd rather have less disposals as she did, but have high impact. And if you look at it, she's kicked more goals than any other season already for Claremont in any other season. That includes her 2 Dara Kerr medal seasons. That includes every season she's been at the Tigers. And her most since 2019, of course, she used to play for Subiaco. So we're just at the halfway point, and she's kicked more goals in a season than any other season. Yeah,
she certainly has, and making a good case as well for possibly contender for the Dara Kerr medal once more, because the way her impact has really made a positive on the Claremont Football Club has been brilliant. But even she was overshadowed by her arch rival on the Saturday, Peel Thunder and Swan Districts at Lane Group Stadium. And good heavens, this was a caning of the highest order, 19-3 to 4-3. And we talked about records were made to be broken. Jamie Henry broke another record.
She did. She's had 49 disposals, 13 tackles as well. So, the most disposals ever in a game of WAFLW footy, and it seems to be the way a little bit. These records about high disposals keep being. We saw Juliet Kelly equal or just get under that last week, and then Jamie Henry's beaten it all together.
I don't want to prejudice anything before August. Jamie Henry's won the Dara Kerr medal. I'm just saying it right now. She's your winner. She's your winner of the Dara Kerr medal. It's over.
You could make a very good case that there might not be much point of her of account.
49 disposals, for the love of Pete.
Yeah, and it further begs the question: what does she have to do to get an AFLW opportunity?
Exactly.
So. It's pretty remarkable in the end, and it was 29 disposals between her and the next best, which was Chloe Wrigley and also Jess Cox.
Oh, just utter domination. Need we say more? But it wasn't just Jamie Henry, wasn't it? Great team football. Everyone contributed. Talk about the likes of Allen, who got 10 tackles and 10 hit-outs as well. Jess Cox with 20. But Ash Sharp, 8 goals in a dominant display up forward.
Yeah, she's really made full use of her 12 disposals that she had. She had 8 kicks and 8 goals, so pure efficiency.
Amazing.
She is clearly obviously coming up from the level above at Freo, taking some time off, and they just isolate her one out so well. She doesn't always lead directly at the footy. She backs in her ability to mark over the back quite a bit, but it's a really good game plan that's hard for opposition defences to shut down.
And for Peel Thunder, they found that out the hard way, and only a couple of players got above 10 disposals. Chloe Wrigley was the only one that went to 20. And so for this Peel Thunder side, this loss, you can't say any more. It's another heavy loss that Peel Thunder have got. It's not only putting more pressure on the players, but putting more pressure on the coaches as well. The coaches are going to feel it as well rather than the players, because this loss is going to be demoralising.
It was, and 5-0 set it up in the first quarter.
It was over then.
Again, similar, I guess, to what we said about these two teams in the league for the men's. I think it's more, but the other way around, we should say. I think it's a reflection of how good Swans were on this occasion rather than how bad. I think, it's just a separation between where the sides are at.
They've just got more class and depth, Swan Districts, haven't they? And that's why, they're at the top end of the ladder and they continue to dominate the competition. And they had a massive win, 90 points. And not just the Jamie Henry show, but Ashley Sharp put her name on the headlights as well with 8 amazing goals from 8 kicks. And then the final game of round 10, Saturday night at Sullivan Logistics Stadium. They got Ash Gomes back, and the Bulldogs, they came back with a wet sail. They were magnificent, were they, all night as they won by 16 points. But let's not take anything away from East Perth. They showed some good desperation and, they kept in touch with South Fremantle all throughout the night. And it's a good positive for the likes of Greenwood, Inglis Hodge, and also Cara Sprylan, who had 24 disposals. So Bulldogs got the points, but East Perth, they didn't lose any friends.
They didn't, and a good way to close the game out as well. With scoring a goal in the last quarter when they were held goalless goalless in the third, so they bounced back in that front. But yeah, I guess the damage was done a bit too late from South Fremantle's perspective. So yeah, they come away with the win. It was like with still Tukarena, the state representatives leading the way. Also Lucy Greenwood from an East Perth perspective, couldn't have done much more in her outing. So yeah, South Fremantle, a win that they needed, but they've I guess got bigger things that they got their eyes on.
The team were also buoyed by the news during the week that Pierre Folletti was going to be coach for 2 more years at South Fremantle. So, that motivated them a little bit more because they love playing for Pierre, and Pierre has led them very well indeed and has got a very good balanced lineup. Tukarena, I thought, continues to evolve as that key midfielder. Another 20-plus disposals, 29 as you alluded to. Tukarena could be, a bit of a leading surprise for the Dara Kerr medal maybe. She's getting around 20 disposals almost every week.
Yeah, she's very agile as well, can turn corners, can get in and out. She's at a size where, she's obviously on the short stature, but that pays dividends in terms of what she's able to do at ground level and weave in and out of traffic. So yeah, obviously spending a bit of time at AFLW level, and that's an example of being able to come down to WAFL W and really make it your own.
Absolutely. South Fremantle with a 16-point win over East Perth, but the Royals showing no signs that they'd lost anything, with some great desperation around the contest and fighting it out in hard fashion, with the likes of Gomes, Cleggett and Cronin dominating for South Fremantle as well. 10 rounds gone. Second half of the season in full swing. Where does the ladder stand? Swan District still on top. They're a game clear ahead of Claremont, who are a further game ahead of East Fremantle, and West Perth are now in the 4 with another stirring win. South Fremantle are in 5th, Subiaco 6th, Perth in 7th, East Perth in 8th, and Peel Thunder making up the rear, still winless. Okay, Rothy, time for the votes. Who have you cast as the Player of the Year votes for round 10?
Yeah, 1 vote. Didn't probably give her as much as a rap as she deserved, but from the Claremont Footy Club, Matilda Husband kicked the first goal of the day, a running goal that she set up well up the field and then finished off her work. And noticed that when she kicks goals, her confidence grows, and had 40 hit-outs to match it as well, so really got on top of Cara Plummer in the ruck. 2 votes from West Perth, Sabrina McKinnon, 4 goals for her. We know what she's done. She's a former Olympic medalist. She played AFLW football for Fremantle and Melbourne, so yeah, just a real luxury to bring her back into the football club. You probably couldn't make any further move from Peel to West Perth, but West Perth are really benefiting from her experience. 3 votes. Just highlighted her for South Fremantle, Natasha Entwistle, 33 disposals, and fastly becoming one of my favourite players to cover in the WAFL W. She just plays with so much maturity beyond her years. She's only 19 still, and she's leading a WAFL W midfield as the way that she's been doing. She really stepped up. 4 votes. Ash Sharp kicked 8 goals. What more can you say? 8 goals, 8 kicks. And I think any time you kick 8 goals and you don't get the top vote, it has to be for good reason that someone else has had not a better performance because they're different metrics, but a performance that is just as unbelievable. And that is 5 votes, and it's happened all too often today. It is Jamie Henry.
No surprise. No surprise. When you have 49 disposals, there's only one place for her to get the votes, and that's at the top.
Sure is. So yeah, she's done it time and time again. And you talk about no Dara Kerr medal count. Well, the leaderboard for the Round the Waffle Player of the Year for WAFL W, you could make a similar case.
Take us through it.
That player in mind, Jamie Henry, she's up to 30 votes already, about the halfway stage. So who knows? She could be eyeing off about 60 votes or something if she's able to do.
Could be a record.
Able to do, but even if she doesn't pull another vote, who knows? It still might be enough. Juliet Kelly, who didn't play on the weekend, she's up to 14 in second position. Paige Shepherd, 12 votes for her from Subiaco. She's on the podium. Noel McNaughton, of course, we won't see more of her because she's at Fremantle. She's on 8 votes. Sabrina McKinnon, that takes her up to 7 votes to sit in 5th position. Likewise on 7 votes, there's Ruby Sargent-Wilson from Claremont. Poppy Stockwell from Perth. We should congratulate her since obviously our last recording being picked up by Hawthorn. So we won't see any further part of her, but it's a good thing for her and for Hawthorn being picked up. So congratulations to her off the back of 7 goals and also 4 goals in the state game. Chloe Wrigley from Peel Thunder on 6 votes. Amber Kinane from East Fremantle on 5 votes, and rounding out the top 10, Natasha Entwistle comes in off the back of her 3-vote game to sit now on 4.
Halfway through, and I think it's looking pretty ominous as far as the WAFL W Player of the Year is concerned. We'll take one more break, and when we do come back, we'll wrap things up with the top 3 plays of the week, the highlights of the highlights, and we'll give you a taste of what's to come on our preview show on Thursday. Stay where you are here on Around the WAFL. More to come after this.
Take it from me, great things happen at the WAFL.
Valentine rides and goals.
With free entry for kids, future stars on the ground, and a kick to kick at every break. The WAFL is where footy memories start and legends are made. Follow the WAFL on socials or get to a game.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate. On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Car Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
And you're back with us here on Around the Waffle. We're wrapping things up on our Monday night recap show with the highlights of the highlights, the top 3 plays of the week. And let's go to number 3, Rothy, Darcy Craven. I think he's showing what Brisbane missed out on with 2 great goals in the first quarter, and that really was the initial spark for East Perth's win.
Yeah, he's certainly showing why he did get that opportunity to Brisbane in the first place, and now that he's a bit more settled into East Perth lineup, it's scary considering what he did before he was drafted was only a small sample size.
Not only as a threat in the key forward line, but also in the midfield, he can run like the wind, Darcy Craven. He was brilliant on Sunday. Number 2, on the same day. Could you see anything on Sunday morning around about 9 o'clock? Could you see anything? Well, you couldn't because the ground was covered with fog in the Colts game. You could not see anything.
I think on behalf of so many people out there, how did you call the game? I mean, it was just impossible.
I couldn't. I could not. Well, I just had to go through the plays a lot, and this and this and this, kicks and this and this and this, and I could not see the player numbers. It was a pain in the backside, but luckily it cleared up during the second quarter. But I've called in rain and hail, but I think that's one of the craziest conditions I've ever called in my 7 years of covering waffle football thus far.
Yeah, well, credit to you for being able to just deal with it then and there, and I guess if you were listening to it, you would have not been able to notice you did such a good job.
It's like being in the French Alps, that fog. It was crazy. And then number 1, even it was in a losing cause, Jaden Hunter, back with a bang, kicks 7 beauties.
Yeah, absolutely. And, really making a play for, the Bernie Naylor medal off the back of his second year in the waffle. So, yeah, he couldn't have done much more. And for Claremont's sake, let's hope, moving forward, he can have a bit more help.
Fantastic stuff. That just about does it for our Monday night recap show. Thanks so much for tuning in. And, Rothy, great job as always. Good luck at the Good Grocer Park on Saturday for the East Fremantle West Perth game.
Yeah, it should be a cracker. So, look forward to recapping you all next week.
It's going to be a ripper, no doubt about that. Thursday, we're going to have Jordan McArdle joining us in the chair. He's back by popular demand after his appearance following the round after the state game. Sensational stuff indeed. And we'll also have the return of On Location. Keep us up to date on our socials on Facebook and Instagram. We're going to tell you who and where we're going on location to this week. You can check us out also on YouTube and where you get your podcasts as always. Thanks for your company. We'll see you on Thursday for a huge preview of the weekend's action.